Hi Aquarius, I'm Susan, your intuitive, and this is your May 2025 reading for Taurus season. So Gemini season is starting next week. However, this is also for May. So May/Taurus/Gemini season, and we still have a week left. I was going to rush and do it yesterday during the full moon, but this is your post full moon reading. The full moon in Scorpio at your degree of 22, your evolved degree. So a lot of you will, depending on your degree in Scorpio, Pluto, one of Scorpio's ruling planets, is retrograde in your sign. We're going to do love first too, by the way. Is retrograde in your sign, which is Aquarius rising's first house, sun and moon, right? It's still hanging out in there. And we'll aspect it at one point within 20 years. And then we have Mars in Leo sitting across from you. So I imagine that the Mars-Pluto opposition that ended about a week ago, but was for like a week, you may have felt that so much more. Like, those who felt it, it was intense, including myself. But those of you who have Aquarius rising, Leo in the 7th house, your relationship, very, very important. That is being brought up here. Oh, okay. Sorry, just had to fix something. I was like, my pant was, a part of it was like, just jabbing my calf right now, which is funny because I was just going to restart this and I'm like, no. Jabbing my calf has to do with Aquarius. That has to do with foundation. There is a lion in this card, which is the Leo. So regardless, Aquarius, sun, moon, and risings, I just need space, so I'm just moving shit around. You may feel that way too. You may feel the way that I'm presenting as well. There may be moments where you feel very engaged with your life and you want to pursue, whether it's you enjoy your work or not, you're just wanting to be able to enjoy and pursue what you're doing or pursue something creative. I know we're talking about your love life, but it'll probably only help your love life and aid in your love life to do something that you're really passionate about, especially if you're doing it for yourself. Number one. Number two, maybe you're doing it by yourself or you're engaging with another person. There is a committed aspect to your relationship that you may have been dancing around, but it has to do perhaps with you being willing to commit to yourself in another area, because so the cups are about your emotions. It's about the energy that you put in, and there might be a deeper found commitment that's been revealed to you that you, in your blind spots, you might be highly aware of it, but no, I feel like I need to move something, sorry. On your day-to-day, you might not be aware of it, but when you really allow yourself time to process and take a step back of what is being shown to you at this point, you are able to, like what I'm doing every moment of this video is like adjusting things. And it's not that necessarily that your relationship has to be adjusted, is there's something about your mind, the way you've been thinking about it, the way that you've been processing trust through your mind, commitment through your mind. You may have come to a point where you realize that you haven't been actually processing it. You haven't been moving through it. You've been adapting because you're avoiding some emotions. You're avoiding the vulnerability of committing. Even if you're in a committed relationship, there is something about talking about it from time to time that really allows the emotions to settle, to find safety, and the mind to recharge and focus. And maybe it's just talking about the future more together. If you're single, you're realizing what you want and don't want very clearly. You're also recognizing that with Pluto transiting, especially Aquarius risings, your 7th house, that your relationships feel different because you're different. It has nothing to do with anyone externally right now. And that could be easy because that's what maybe the role or the way you're used to seeing and playing in life. However, now your 7th house is going through a whole transformation and will be for quite some time. So giving yourself, my chair's a little squeaky, giving yourself space to process and time to process, because you're different. Ooh, Taurus season's like, you're different. For Aquarius risings, Taurus is in the 4th house of foundations. Perfect. This is where we're, love this. I didn't write a lot of notes for you, and there's always 1 or 2 signs that like get no notes. They just get like certain things, because there's so much, there's just things that I can't sense until we sit down and talk about it. And with you in Capricorn this month, I was really waiting, because there has been this shift, especially because of Pluto, but because you rule such strong body parts. Not that everywhere else isn't strong, but the stable, like you rule the calves, and then Capricorn rules the knees. And if you go deeper, there's the skeletal structure that holds us up, right? Saturn is a part of that, and that rules you both traditionally. I'm getting to that because what you're being revealed to in your mind and in your relationship is showing you where you're needing to, you're being asked to go deeper. All the fixed signs have this safety net in the healthier version of themselves. And even if you're not fully there, like, what does that even mean? But if you know that you're still working on some things, there are certain corners that each of you require in order to move forward. It's like you have to like be aware of everything before you move forward, which is why when you do move forward, even though like you may take your time, whatever that means, like especially with the Taurus card is like your time, taking your time, the time that you take specifically is necessary for the adjustment, for that period when things shift. And right now, you may not have known why you've needed so much rest or downtime until now. It's possibly that now, as this retrograde is retrograding in your sign, you recognize that it's because you are about to make a bunch of decisions in Gemini season. And a bunch of decisions, meaning very personal decisions that connect you deeper to yourself, to the life that you want to live. And you finally have looked far and wide enough and adjusted in all of these ways, or not, or been a little more stubborn, right, on the other end, because it really does swing to those extremes with everyone in their own way. But for you guys, it's that extreme of either being stubborn or really open, and you recognize now that the more that you commit or have devotional time, spiritual time, maybe you're studying a different philosophy or educating yourself in some way, but either way, there's time being devoted to your development, to your spiritual growth. And it has the influence of Pluto for sure, that it's transforming your life, the way that you address your desires. And when we recognize and are in a very introspective place, as you know, you do go there. When you finally are open and in all these ways safe enough to explore and be honest with your desires, be transparent with your desires. And that's what we're all getting to with this Scorpio full moon, is being very transparent with our desires and connecting that to our voice so that we can share that with, if you're dating or if you're already in a relationship, if you in friendship, the way that you're changing, is that there's this vulnerability that's revealing itself through you, which is changing you. It's changing your perspective. And it's not necessarily like you didn't have these perspectives. You're just being more open. There's a safety and security in knowing that this is your desire. You're not hiding from it. You're not avoiding it. You're not saying, oh, I shouldn't want that. It keeps coming up in your life because it wants you to say, actually, like, this is what I want. And a way to find that out is like if you felt jealous of anyone or envious, a lot of times those emotions are signals for something. Emotions are our body's way of sending us signs, like before it even hits the outer world. And then when something externally hits us deeply, for some of us, we need that. Like it's giving yourself that time and space to feel through whatever emotions are revealing themselves through you, especially, and I'm using jealousy and envy as an example because that's something, who doesn't experience that at some point, and maybe you've been avoiding it, not wanting to address it, but that can come out as obsession in other areas of your life in ways that actually take you off your path and actually direct it to like seeing those things, jealousy and envy, for example, using those and having to accept those are just showing you what you want, and that's without anybody else sharing. Like, I'm someone who's giving advice and sharing knowledge of the cards and astrology. However, it's up to you to decide if that information is true for you or it actually makes your truth stronger, which is not what I'm saying, right? So that jealousy and that envy and actually listening to it and not avoiding it brings you closer to what you want, what you truly desire, to what you're being opened up to. Because there seems like the Ace of Swords is the only one that wears the crown. The Ace of Wands has that you know how to grow things. You might even have a green thumb. You might not notice it. You might be able to really maintain friendships or whatever it is. You're noticing that your relationship to yourself is now being reflected, and you're in a space where if you don't allow yourself to be vulnerable in the ways of relationship, whether they're romantic or not, is so important for your growth. It's important for this change to continue, to develop, because I'm just eating. Why? Well, if Pluto, for Aquarius rising specifically, if Pluto's going to be transiting your 7th house, it's getting used to that you're going to change throughout these relationships and allowing people to love you for each change that you go through, even if it feels minuscule from the outside and they're like, yeah, no big deal. It's big for you at times. And that's what Pluto does. It makes it feel bigger. What it's going to help you with is expand your mind, especially in the place where you feel more worthy and you're in vocal and what you want, because the Hierophant is about your stability and your groundedness within the material. And it's understanding that this 4th, 10th house moon that just went on, which is your foundations and the role that you play, you realize that a role that you've been playing perhaps in your relationships actually is wasting the energy that you could be utilizing somewhere else. So when you pull back in that way, you're giving yourself space to rethink, reassess, and really choose, and not just it be this patterning that you didn't choose, that you didn't know you were doing, this voice that it's not yours inside of your mind at times, and that comes from perhaps an indecision, but you didn't know that all your decisions were based off of this one decision about relationships and about maybe needing more spirituality or having grounded values that you share. That's really important. And when you do speak about them together, or if you're dating and you actually bring that up and have a more in-depth conversation, there's less decision made out of fear and security, because you're sharing parts of yourself that matter and you want to see if they're, taken seriously, given the thought they deserve. Like, Aquariuses are interesting in relationships. And for some people, you can just feel when they're committed, but you have to remember that your subconscious patterning is also really important in any relationship that you have in your life. So being able to, that's a lot of cards, Aquarius, so I'm going to just reshuffle. If they come out again, I will allow. But we're just going to reshuffle for money. As we shuffle, all information to work with me one-on-one is below. My schedule link, payment options, my website, that's all below, as well as the Patreon reading. Patreon will have the extended version where we get even more in depth into these cards, which have been awesome. You'll see them I'll put out shorts and you'll see like a clip of this first part and the second part together. but they're not the full video on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. And then Patreon, if you do subscribe, you can and you will receive everything I do for video right to your email. So you can check that out, and it goes sign by sign. So specific signs you can choose, and those will be sent to your email right when they come out. So you don't even have to go to YouTube if you would like. So money is specific. It's funny because this card was actually on the bottom before, and hey, look, Pluto's showing up. So there might be a lot of doubt in the realm of, in the mask of judgment showing up. It's really important because your relationship is really, this reading is really strong and eye-opening because it's only going to help the potential for money and love. It probably reflects deeply there, but you may be wanting something new and desiring something new. So whether you're conscious of that or not, it's going to show up. You're going to be receiving opportunity to grow and expand. And at first you may, and this may have been something that was spoken about before. This is very intuitive and specific for you, Aquariuses, Aquarii out there. It's coming through this intuitive avenue where life is asking you, do you want to, like, this is time for transformation. Like, you don't know where this can go, right? And it actually brings you excitement. There's passion. There's a lot of passion here. And you may not know it right off the bat because maybe you're used to another experience in terms of like a job or a money-making situation. But what it's going to allow you, see these horses, is freedom. More freedom. It may start with more freedom in terms of your hours and how you work, and that you may actually enjoy this version of work better than what you're doing now before it promotes more money specifically. But it doesn't also look like you're losing out. It's just this believing in yourself and trusting this, because life is trying, or life is not trying, life is, Pluto is clearing out all this noise and messiness with the indecision or with the doubt, or with, you know, maybe you have been maybe a little more disassociated at times because you're actually needing time alone. And these opportunities, at first you feel like it's going to make you do more. But what you do have in your hands is that you can ask for a specific start date, or you can ask, like, what will this entail? How many hours? Because it's so exciting. It might move fast. You want to remain somewhat professional, of course. So even if they seem friendly and you know how to make things cool and casual, ask for everything in writing, so that if there's a boundary overstepped in a time where you're in transition, so maybe you're doing multiple things, and then you give yourself time to decide. If you're not like wanting to be impulsive about it, it's really important that you ask for things in writing so that you can refer back to it just in case any boundaries are crossed or being asked of, or you feel obligated where you don't have to, because that is a part of not being clear in your boundaries in general, and then you being frustrated or projecting because you're unwilling to decide what's best for you. You kind of, there can be, and everybody can do this, but this is showing up in your life right now where it's like it's like really trusting your intuition. Some of you will move on very quickly, even if this next thing doesn't exactly give you like the longevity and it's just for a time period. There's a part of you where that feels freeing, because you're being sought after. This version you're changing into, that you're being sought after, and it may not hit you in the way other things have hit you, but it's because you're learning a different way. And what's coming to mind, I'm going to share with you this quickly before we end here and go into the next part, is that when you, or if you have ever grown up where you knew someone to be a certain way And whenever you tried to express feelings about it or be honest about something, you were told, and it sounds like gaslighting and is, but I just want to say, like, if you were told that wasn't true, or if you saw a version of someone no one else saw, right? That's your specific lesson, one. And two, it can teach you not to trust yourself. And it can be hard seeing people for who they are, or even allowing yourself sometimes, especially if there's a lot of healing to do there. And they're like, how does this relate to work? How does this relate to money? Because it could have been at work. It didn't have to necessarily start at home for some people. It can start at work, or it can start in ways in which where you put your value. So you may think that you're putting your value or you're putting your worth in another area, but as you transform through your relationships, you understand the value of relationships even more, which is what what air signs can become very good at, and usually are, depending on their life. However, over time, it becomes more important. So there's a part of you that knows that you need to be professional. You want to give someone what you would give them. But when something this life-changing, potentially, especially potential is important, although not a given, is really important, because it's all depends on where you're coming from and where your worth is hanging at. This is the Taurus card. Where's your worth? Mercury's in Taurus right now too. Where does this feel scary? And if you're being given this opportunity, giving yourself time to decide, because it is changing the way that you think. We're going to go through this in a second. And it's making you realize that whoever you're becoming allows that version of yourself to feel more worthy and be more worthy, because what's coming through is so much more than you've been given the opportunity for, that you may feel very emotional because of it. And that's why your relationship building is so important, because you want to be able to experience this not just with yourself, but show, like, there's this part of you that's like, just there's a rawness revealing, and you can't run from it or hide from it or avoid it any longer. It's happening. And in all honesty, Aquarius, I think that out of all of this amazingness and change is the most important. Taurus, it's really having you focus on your foundations and how they've affected your ability to role switch, career switch, what's been the common thread, and what do you actually want, and what's being offered to you now that you didn't realize you maybe deeply subconsciously desired, and who do you need to be to continue that process. Make you realize and possibly be a little upset about the amount of money you could have been making, but you're doing it now. Remember, you're doing it now. You're here now. We'll get right into the second part. All information to work with me is below. All information is there. This is spiritual growth, Aquarius. So if you need to sit and relax and go through all of this, these are fixed signs as well. Take your time. I'll see you next time.